Hello
there, I'm
there. And
Robert,
I'm
and
Vanessa.
we are late to the party, and we were fortunate enough to check out one day early Eternals from Marvel.
The MCU. It is now, the internals are now part of the MCU. And one of the things that stood out for me in this movie was the character work. I think that they did give us enough, for me personally, they did give us enough to where I did feel for all of these characters. Even though there were certain things where it's like, okay, I kind of wish we got a little bit more with certain characters. There's things
Yeah,
that do happen that you're kind of like, okay, well, why would that character do that in that
sure.
certain part? But other than that, I feel like for this movie, for an intro of the Eternals, that we got what we needed, but I was hoping for more.
There is a lot there to grow on, and that's the thing of it's evolution, it's humanity, it's the growth of starting out simple and growing into intelligence. And these Eternals did it with the characters that they had to the point where I want to see every single one of them grow in this space in the future, out in the cosmic universe that is Marvel and the direction that they're heading to, especially when it comes to Celestials, when it comes to, a lot more than we've been given thus far, reaching out into the vast reaches of the unknown. And there are certain things in this movie where I'm like, oh man, why did that character do that? Just because, like, I wish they would have been a bigger part of a certain aspect of the film. And for me, it kind of sucked the wind out of my sails because I was like, oh, I wanted to see that go down with this character. But I feel like in the future, I could have plenty of that character to go around. Because of that, I'm okay with some of the choices because it was a choice to do this. It's not like it's bad, and it's very possible that a person could make the same exact choice. There are some inner struggles in the characters, and so it doesn't make me go, "Oh, well, that was crap." It was like, no, that was a choice for that character, and hopefully we can grow from those choices made in this movie. And that's what I'm excited about when it comes to the characters, because those are the vehicles driving the movie, is that they can grow, and I'm looking forward to seeing future movies with these characters in it.
Yeah, one thing about the MCU is that you know that you have these stories, but they are continuing on. They have to tell a story that it will continue on into other movies
Sure.
in the vast of what is the MCU, and I feel like that could be a downfall too, when especially when you're coming to an intro movie. With this movie, the way that they introduce these stories or introduce these characters to us in a way of time jumping within the storytelling, it's not just a linear story that you're getting. It does go back and forth with these characters in certain aspects of what is going on present versus what happened before, so you can kind of get context of what's happening now
Sure.
based off of what happened before. So that's kind of where you get that character development right there, is because it does go back. Now that can stop the movie for some people. It can shift and where it's like, oh, okay, now we're going back to something before. Can we just continue on the story? And I did feel that a little bit. And I feel like there will be times where people will be like, okay, no, I just want a linear story. Just continue the story. I don't want to stop and have to move back to hear what's going on or
Sure.
hear that story of those
Yep.
characters. Me personally, I love time jumps. I really enjoyed it because then you get what's happening now and then you figure out, oh, that's why that happened, and then you go back to where the story is. I do like those time jumps, but I can see why it could stop the story in that moment because of going back and forth.
It is fill in the blank storytelling, when they feed you things you did not know leading into a situation that now you know going into this situation. There is certain aspects to the storytelling where it does build momentum and then it does stop to show and share more about these characters. I personally know multiple people that they prefer linear storytelling and they get lost when you start time jumping. So Inception was one that I love Inception so much, but there is no way that Inception can be watched by some of these people that prefer the linear storytelling. And maybe you're a linear storyteller and you do keep track of it, but I'm talking about some of the general audience that doesn't dabble in those kinds of movies. Memento, like they're not in that vein of storytelling. And when you do jump, I'll tell you, they do a good job of keeping you on track on where things were. But there were some moments where they just relied on the imagery for you to realize, oh, we're back in this era. So the time jumping, I could see some people getting lost in. Kids, that's the only thing, man. This is going to be where we're going to separate the kids and those that can do those kinds of stories and those that can't. Because there were so many kids in the audience for this screening. And I'm curious what they feel or what they felt watching this movie. Was there confusion? Is it just about the booms and the bangs and not so much, the visual imagery and the storytelling? Because even when you're young, you can pick up storytelling by what is happening. When someone's angry, you can tell. When someone's evil, you can tell. When someone's got a little bit of heart and they're sad but they do bad things, you can tell there is nuance in there when it comes to the imagery if you're paying attention. So if the kids made it that far, I'm curious, if the time jumping element of the storytelling is something that could be possibly wavering those that are trying to go in and watch a linear Marvel story.
Yes. The other thing about this movie that it is an intro to the Eternals, essentially, like not necessarily like an origin story, but
Sure.
it can be played out as an origin story for them. But I like the story that they had because it was a struggle between the characters and not even though they did have big bangs that were happening with throughout like the story on Earth and stuff like that, but the story conflict itself, it did kind of stick to them, which I really liked because there are certain times where you have these characters like this movie's coming after a bunch of other characters have already been introduced to the MCU that happened on Earth. And then you have a movie where it's like, oh, this big thing is happening. Why isn't like, Scarlet Witch a part of it? Why isn't Doctor Strange being involved in it? You Spider-Man, because it's like
Sure.
such a big thing. That is the one thing I did like about this is that it did contain itself a little bit in the story for the Eternals that you're like, okay, like it doesn't really make sense to have some of the other characters because it
Sure.
was just for them.
Right.
But the only thing is that I feel like the movie does fall prey to the MCU's way of storytelling in a way of constraints of saying, hey, this is part of a bigger story that's happening. Yes, we have this story, but you do need to keep it beat going on, and now we're going to move on to something else. And I feel like I'm more invested in what's going to happen next than what kind of ended up happening in this movie.
And don't get me wrong, we're happy to go through this journey because it's like we
Right.
gotta go through this kind of established characters, setting, scenario, world, because they're adding a huge chunk of the world to the Marvel universe, and we need to be acquainted and comfortable with that before we just jump in, because that's one thing we have criticisms about when it comes to other films, when they just jump in with it and don't build up some sort of lore. And I get it, it comes down to the dollars and cents and it comes down to the ratings. Doesn't look good right now for Eternals with the Rotten Tomatoes score that they have. But when it comes down to it, it's up to you and it's how you feel. And if you're willing to pay for the screening and multiple screenings if you like it that much. So that's going to be the telling of the story. Is it too wild? Is it too crazy? Are people not ready to get into the
Is it too
cosmic
slow?
stuff?
Is it too different?
Sure. I mean, that's all to be said and discussed, but where it's going to be, told is that, hey, there's still fun story in there, man. Venom is killing it. Venom 2 is killing it. And there are aspects there where it's like, man, I wish it was more flushed out. I wish we had Spider-Man. I wish we had the world to build around it. So I love that they are taking time here to at least bring these characters in, because if they're going to be with us for the next long haul, if these are people that will be a part of the big Avengers level threat, then it's going to come down to me liking and loving what they were doing because of those experiences. There's even people in this movie that are not part of the Eternals that I love their inclusion aspects, interjections, as minimal as they may be. They did a good job. I don't know, man. I love what they did here with the movie to give me attention now. Like, my attention is focused in their direction because I want to see the story that's going to be told from their kernel of a story.
With that said, like there is a lot of surprises that happen in this movie, specifically more so with the post-credit scenes. obviously, because you have to continue the story on. But what I liked about it is that we are going to be expanding more. Like there is going to be more, not just related to Earth, but to related to like everything that this universe is about.
Okay.
And like, granted, yes, we got it through Guardians gave us more. Doctor Strange gave us more. Thor Ragnarok gave us more. But I feel like Eternals can be a part of that. That they are giving us more. That we are seeing that this phase of MCU is going to be different than all of the other phases that we've had so far, just based off of certain things that happen in this movie.
You take certain beings, the cosmic beings that are being created in the MCU now. We've got Captain Marvel, and on her way up, Scarlet Witch, who are going to dominate on a level that is insurmountable. It's going to be like, if you throw Tony Stark out there, more than likely, if they just go 1-to-1, it's done. So you're going to get very powerful beings. You throw them against Captain Marvel or on a Captain Marvel level. We've seen what Captain Marvel can do. That's why they took her out of the movies for majority of it, because they're like, dude, she could wreck shop. But they did a good way of making it so that even she could get taken down. Power Stone to the face. And that's what I love about this movie, is that you are building these new, incredibly powerful characters, but they can get taken down. They can get knocked on their ass in these fights.
Right.
And it's scary because you can lose them at any moment.
Right, which I do like, because you really don't want to have a character like, oh well, this character can beat this, why aren't they having this person do it, because of the strength that they have. But they utilize all of these characters and their powers great.
Sure.
I really did like the way that they utilized everyone's characters. It didn't feel like we were just focusing on one of them and then having the other ones kind of interject every once in a while. It did feel like it flowed nicely with the different characters that you are being introduced to in this movie.
And you see the powers in a certain light that have been established in other properties. DC is such, in my opinion, a big tip of the hat, multiple moments in this movie to DC, not only just by showing you, hey, we know what Superman can do. We're going to check out some of those powers in another universe, in another way, by another character. And he's lacking all the other stuff that, Superman has. It just really comes down to super strength and laser and flying eyes. That's pretty much it. And he's vulnerable just like the rest of the Eternals.
Right.
So, and a speedster, man. They do a speedster very well. We've had speedsters when it comes to the Marvel Universe. You saw a great job that they did with Quicksilver and Pietro and Days of Future Past. And when it comes to showing what a speedster can do, they're like, well, you know what?
Age of Ultron.
Or yeah, absolutely. They can't do the same thing. So let's just show the boom. And then she's got good sign language too, man, which is pretty legit. Like the things that they do with the characters, just in terms of the fighting, it reminded me kind of like Guardians of the Galaxy, where it's like we incorporate the team, more so the Guardians of the Galaxy game, where you've got everybody getting a piece of the fight. And the Eternals, they do it so well, where each one does get a piece of the fight. If you're just paying attention to each one and what they're doing in those moments, they're badass. Like I'm sitting there going, damn, like you guys can actually pull some pretty badass hits and get knocked on your ass again when the story is needing it. So obviously it's a lot more in the final act of the movie, but it's sparingly. Then there's a lot of talking. There's a lot of talking, a lot of family, a lot of bringing the crew together. I felt like it took forever to bring the crew together.
Right, because I feel like this story is more character driven, in my opinion. I feel like they wanted to focus more on that and then have the secondary conflict in the story happen. Sure. Which I'm okay with. I liked it because we're gonna get them back. We're gonna see them again. And so allowing them to kind of have that character driven in this allows them to kind of go bigger in other movies.
And the music that was dancing with them throughout this movie, there's a certain theme, the main theme that we use at the very beginning of this video. The main theme is in it rarely, in my opinion. It's there in the beginning and I loved it, and then I didn't hear it again what felt like 3/4 of the movie, and then I hear it again. I was like, man, I was really missing that music.
Yeah.
But Ramin Djawadi, who ended up doing the first Iron Man movie and Game of Thrones, Stark and Snow coming together. But it's going to be something that I'm hoping that they can explore on with Ramin, because it's very them. It fits them very well, and I want growth in this world with that kind of music.
I agree. I think that the theme for Eternals does fit these characters very well, and it fits in this story too. We didn't, like you said, we didn't get really a whole lot of the theme a lot of times too. Like we got it a little bit at the beginning.
Sure.
I feel like we got a little bit in the middle and then at the end, but I wanted more of that.
Sure.
But I really enjoyed the theme. Like I listened to it right now when I was like getting ready and stuff. Like I really enjoyed it.
It gets you in the mood, and it
Yeah.
does make the movie more enjoyable if you're paying attention to it, because when it does hit, it hits well. Especially when it hits again, it's like it's not even like a fight scene or anything. It's just like we're figuring stuff out, and it's like it really works here. You know, these are some thinkers. These are some very, very not so much educated, experienced people, because they've been around for like 7,000 years. So I mean,
Yeah.
there's a lot still to grow. That's what's cool about it. They've been around 7,000 years, but they're still teaching each other things and learning more about themselves after that long of a time frame. But as a backdrop as well, the scenery. Now we know Chloe Zhao ends up giving you that established Academy Award winning level shit. It is there. It's in the scenery. It's in the shots. It's in the elegance and the beauty. But again, it's Earth.
Yeah.
So we've kind of seen it.
We've seen it before. The shots that I really, really liked are the ones that you kind of get the cosmic feel, the cosmos feel, like you saw in the trailers where you saw the celestial. Like
Sure.
those shots were the ones that I was actually in awe of, because that's what I want to see more too. It's like, yes, we spent some time with our characters on Earth. Granted, we'll spend more time with our characters on Earth. It's gonna happen because that's their base of operation. That's where they are from. But I want more of the cosmos. Like when you have Loki and you have the TVA and everything is going down with that, like I want to go out.
Yeah,
I
let's
want to
get
see
wild.
more. Let's go wild with. Let's get wild with
Yeah,
it.
and it's it covers humanity. It truly is an origin story, and that's great, and we love it. But we humans suck. We get it. We know humans suck. So when they go through these existential crises of like, should we not have helped them? Look what they're doing. It's like, yeah, no, humans are terrible, but they're still good in there. They're still good in humanity, and so that's what you get from this movie.
Right, but which we've seen in other movies before when it
course.
comes to having characters like these that have the ability to do these certain things. It's
Sure.
like, where do you help and when do you not help? And
Right.
like having that, like the crisis within yourself, like,
Sure.
what's going on? So it does happen, and that's in there,
Absolutely.
which is fine too.
Yeah,
But
it just feels like it has been done already,
right.
So, but it's now with these characters,
Right.
so it's a reboot of certain tropes of powerful beings, and it's fine because those tales keep getting told. How many Spider-Man origin movies did we get? How many Batman parents dead have we gotten? They're going to continue to regurgitate these kinds of storytellings because
in different ways.
It's the same shit that's been going on for eons and ages. It ain't just comic books. So
right.
It definitely comes down to more, mythology and on a higher level. And that's what's cool about it, because they do add a lot of lore here. They tie into a lot of where things came from, So, I mean, the main guy's name is Icarus, So, of course, there's plenty of origin when it comes to tales and fables and legend and lore. But now it's time to get past the old fables and let's get to where we're taking
Where they
these
need to
characters.
be.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
that's the future. And we can't wait to see where these characters go. It's going to be a lot of fun. That tech is so cool. The weaponry is legit.
I like this type of technology where it feels ancient, like you wouldn't have it now, but yet it is futuristic.
Sure.
Like it isn't from now.
Sure. And
that's what I like. Like I
yeah.
love when that happens in other movies when they do that. where it's in the past, but they have the technology to do things that normally wasn't in that time frame, but they do it in such a way that it's like I could see that working then. They just didn't think of it back then
Sure.
until now, which I do like it. It's like it feels ancient but futuristic at the same time.
Absolutely. So, guys, if you checked out Eternals, sound off down below. What did you love about it? What did you not like about it? Clearly, there's going to be some aspects of this movie that people are not going to like about it. And I was curious, sitting in there because you do see a whole variety, a whole gamut of people. And I'm curious, like, how did everybody feel about everything in this movie? They took steps. Disney took steps. Even Disney just recently said they're not going to air this movie in certain parts of the world because they are not going to change it. So taking steps when it comes to the movie, but for us, everything felt so organic and well put together. But it's about the future. It's about what's to come. Thanks for feeding us the knowledge on these characters. Let's take it to where it's going to do some damage. So, guys, what did you think? Let us know down in the comments below. You can also like and subscribe.
And did the thing on our Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, Instagram, Discord.
All the social networking gin joints, you know where they are. Kick into the party, fuel the party, keep the party going. On our Patreon, going through Doctor Who reactions. Doctor Who is back. Check them out on our channel. 1 episode down, 5 more to go. But thank you guys so much, and as always,
Now it's time to say goodbye.
this party is over.
Bye.
Bye.